guys. I'm looking. Anyway, it doesn't matter. In fact, now that I've done that, let me apologize by phrasing the first question to you. Yes, that's my apology. So our room generally consists of maybe a good balance of 60% artists, 40% patrons of the arts, lovers of the music, right? So we like to prepare these conversations to give practical examples, to give musicians an understanding of the world beyond their studios, right? Understanding what the music industry has as far as the machine goes and how we can engage with people in the positions that you play, right? In the best way, the most effective way, right? So with your operations and logistics, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, cool. Can we just make sure his mic is live?
Hello.
Down low. So, like I said, we're trying to, break the language barrier between artists and, people such as yourself. So, I'm curious, what do you think artists often overlook about the role you play in operations and logistics?
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Musa Sitole, and I'm the operations and logistics person for uMyanyano Lwe Jazz. I feel like one of the things that artists overlook in terms of how we curate a jazz festival, in terms of is the silent machinery that is always taking place, in terms of making sure that when artists arrive, like there's a system in place to receive them, making sure that sound check is happening at an appropriate time. Like it's a system that is built on precision. It's based mostly on time, So artists arriving on time for sound check, artists arriving on time for their performances, that in itself allows us to actually create an ecosystem that is influctuated by the concept of time, because anything that disturbs the movement in terms of what we are trying to curate, the whole event does not stabilize in the ways that we want it to be. So that's one thing that people often overlook in terms of the technical managers, the sound engineers, they're making sure that you can actually hear Bukang's voice when she's performing, that's making sure that you can hear the drums, like all those things, all those intricacies that are in place that make sure that all of us are having an experience that is worthwhile.
Yeah, that's fine. So what's interesting about what you're saying as far as the takeaway is that you've expressed how collaborative this thing is without necessarily saying it on the nose, because while the artists themselves are on stage, it doesn't end there with their performance. And as soon as an artist understands the other players in making sure this performance is as it should be, I think it opens up a different door, because if you're connected like this with the logistics and operations person, as an artist, you can only ensure that you have the best show that you can give, right? So it's collaborative, and even this exercise tonight, an incredible takeover by uMyanyano Lwe. Make some noise for that. So even using this as a case study for collaboration, Tato, I'm curious, what makes a partnership feel genuinely collaborative for you, LJ?
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hi. Hi. My name is Tato, and I am the Creative Partnerships Lead at uMyanyano Lwe Jazz, but you can also call me Tato. Yeah, you have a stage name. Yes, and essentially my role with ULJ is finding the people that are dream collaborators for this vision and community that we're building, right? uMyanyano Lwe Jazz says its tagline is for the love of South African jazz, community and culture. And we take that very seriously and intentional in how we envision and curate the space itself, but also the partnerships and the people we're bringing along, right? So first and foremost, aside from being festival organizers, we are lovers and consumers and worshippers of this beautiful, beautiful music, right? We are not just people who were like, oh, we think this lineup would be cool and have people come see it, but we enjoy this music. We are in the streets even on Wednesdays, right? To hear what's on the ground, what the people are loving, and we love it too. And we say we want to bring that to the people. So it's understanding that intention of how we're not very blasé about any lineup, about what you get at the experience. So we're hoping our dream collaborators, our artists and patrons and vendors, you know, I include vendors as that as well because they are collaborators as well, who understand that vision, right? To say that Bogang is someone we admire, we enjoy their music and we want to share with the world. But we hope that what Bogang also, how she's going to participate is to add to the experience that we want to give to the people, right? We are human beings who exist in our own ecosystems, and there are industry standards and how we think things should move, right? And sometimes you want to stand on business and be like, as an artist who's sensitive about their shit, this is how it's going to go, right? And sometimes that's where clashes happen, especially between festival organizers and artists. But when you share the same vision of, we want to come bring a healing to people, we want them to be able to feel free to enjoy the music, enjoy the space, enjoy each other, right? And we're aligned on that thing. That's the magic in our partnerships and collaborations with artists, with vendors, with our sound engineers as well, to the people who, you know, are our kitchen staff, or even the venues that we choose. People who understand our vision, who are intentional and want to contribute to that vision. I hope that paints a picture.
Come on, yes. Like, I like that it's broader than just, you know, I get the core team. I mean, you guys are, what, in your fifth, I see a 5, fifth year. Sorry, madam, what do you do? How do you know that there's 5 years?
Because I'm the bouncer.
There we go. So, okay, so I like that there's a mutual understanding across the board, right? There's something you said when that I really loved while we were texting. This is when we discovered the typo, right? There was a typo. By the way, promoters, Malcolm is spelled with an L before the M.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Just letting you know. So we discovered the typo, but before we discovered, Malcolm Gianne had already posted the posting. So quick, right? And then what you said was, Malcolm is a promoter's dream, right? Because a lot of the time it's difficult to get the artists themselves to participate in these. It's weird for me, it's you're on the lineup, but anyway, we're not there. I understand as far as that understanding across the board. Once we understand each other better, we collaborate way more effectively. So Butitutu, tell me, what content from artists helps festivals market them effectively?
If you can hear me clap once. Let me clap twice. Just smoothly clap twice. Sangunani, my name is Tito. I think for me, more than anything, it begins with the music. So before TikTok videos or hey, I'll be at uMyanyano Lwe Jazz, we are really looking for musicians who, and this is not a comment on having a large discography. We've got a lot of younger musicians who are part of uMyanyano and don't have albums, but it really, at the core of it, begins with the music, right? Because that's at the center of what we do, that's at the center of our messaging. And I think I also want to use this opportunity for the younger musicians who are starting out, so please get in studio. It may be hard, but record. And if it's not a matter of recording, do those gigs, do the weekly touch-up, do the art gig at whatever other venue, because that helps you not only practice but master that craft so that you also land up on a festival stage. Because before that, there isn't any proof of concept, and we can't. So it starts with the music. After the music, it's then, I mean, for a festival like us, we pride ourselves in being a boutique festival. So, and we're scaling, and you guys are in for a bang in terms of what we have planned for the next few years. But I think at the scale that we are at right now, it's about word of mouth. A lot of people have always asked us, oh, why don't you have these fancy drones at your event? Why don't you, because again, it speaks to coverage and marketing, but we truly believe that at the core of our marketing, it's you and the artists and all the spaces that we in. So beyond social media, I think how we've managed to reach how far we've reached and made the connections we've made with people, how we can get any bird tickets sold out in just a go, is because it's about community and the musicians themselves are part of the community.
That is so powerful. Let's give it to him. Let's give it to him. I think what I really like is that you emphasize the buy-in from the artists themselves. And I mean, before I prefaced your question, I spoke about how sometimes they don't have that buy-in, you know. But it's important as far as word of mouth, because like they're connected to their communities, right? And now I'm referring to artists like we don't have one on our panel, right? We've got alumni, right, of uMyanyano Lwe Jazz. Welcome, right? Technically, you're kind of alumni to us as well, in a way. And I think our 50th. Well, we were Bob Black Sheep, where we had LMK, and then we had the incredible Bokan Ramatapeng, and now you're here for your first solo touch-up, right? But also you're obviously playing uMyanyano Lwe Jazz, right? Which is exciting to have you here and to get your perspective as far as what these relationships actually look like amongst, you know, this team, specifically them. So there's stuff that, you know, you want to call them out on, this is the perfect time. No, I mean, they're here, you know. If you want to show them love, they're here. So my question to you then is, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
What did you say? Clap once if you can hear me. Okay, you can hear me. Okay, cool. So, what did you learn about relationships between artists and festivals after performing at uMyanyano Lwe?
I was so honored to be here. This is family. Manyano is family too. So it's a special honor to be here and just to be a part of this experience again, actually. So yeah. To answer the question, firstly, this was my first festival ever in my entire life to be called on. So that was also amazing. So you know, I think why I would keep it to her specifically is because she's a lover of us. She's a lover of the music. She's a lover of the people. So what I've learned was, number one, it's the relationship between the festival organizer and the artist. It's great when the organizer actually likes you and likes the music that you create. Because some festivals, I don't want to say they don't, but they just, oh, I'm just booking someone for the sake of numbers or the brand or whatever the case may be. But Zungi actually is interested. Who are you? What are you about? And that was the first time I learned that, oh, it's okay to actually have someone be curious about who I am besides what I can bring and the ticket sales I'm about to, you know, make happen for them. So not just actually the branch, the business, you know, to the team. But that was the first time experiencing what it feels like to sort of be a star. I don't know if it's a star. I felt like a star from the moment I walked in. Listen, you are a star. You know, I even cried, I think, towards the end of the show, because I'm like, wow. From the moment I walked in, sound check, I arrived on time because I really just a person that doesn't like being late. So I honored that, but because I honored the person that called me also. So I think that's also a relationship thing, you know, with the person's curious about you and you realize that this is, it's beyond the I'm booking you. It's also just like, I honor her. So I started with the, okay, honoring the time. Then the food, then everything was just running on time. So I learned that, oh, these things can actually run on time because I find myself in particular places, unfortunately, where I think a lot of artists can say we've been in places where sound check is late or the food doesn't come, we never eat something, either don't eat or you eat later. So that was an incredible experience to just have a holistic thing. And then also the community. I mean, those other artists that were there, was nothing of Mang Mang Umole, you can't go to his room and maybe say Mang Mang. I had a full experience of good food, great sound. That's like so important because I mean, if your sound is great, people really will understand the product. And no, man, also for the winners. I feel like But like that's, I think what I learned, number one, was just, it's for the artists specifically, things actually can go well, like the whole day. And that was how I actually experienced this festival. There was nothing, I was like, yo, this is not there, because I was not pressed. I was actually just never frustrated that entire weekend. And so that was what I learned. There was positives to that. Everything can actually run on time, and the organizers actually were interested. Hey, Bogani, did you eat? Did your bag eat? Are you okay? Was that how you getting home? If you don't, we can make up, like things like that, you know, just looking out for you. That was a holistic experience for me. And I'm not really buying face, I'm honestly, I had a really good time, you know. And also, you know, I wasn't performing on the Sunday, but they said, listen, we want you to experience the whole thing, perform, and the next day come and watch and be with the community. And that was just like a beautiful experience, because later on there was some beautiful moment that happened with like jazz hours, and I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm on the jazz night. It was for us young musicians that are coming up, as Tuto was saying, we were attending shows, and you know, that was an opportunity for me to communicate with my elders and to find out what they have to say about this beautiful community that they've, you know, built, and we are starting to also join, and we're going to start building. So these festivals taught me that it's important to attend, number one, as an artist, because a lot of artists don't attend festivals. So, and I don't know why we do that. It's good to watch other people, guys, you know? So I was happy when Zuki gave me that ticket, and I think, no man, I need to go and learn. You know, kilo mamela, and give back, like, be a child, because that's essentially what happens as an artist. You have to go back and say, I don't actually know everything, you know? And so when I go back and I actually experience the second day, I was like, wow. Some notes for my previous like performance. The next day I'm like, okay, maybe I should, you know, perhaps did this, you know, Duduza did this, you know, Leomi, like, it was just a beautiful experience. So, yeah, no, I like,
Wow! No, make some noise.
Sorry, just a quick one. I think it's worth, my brother, please turn this up. I think it's worth noting, and you mentioned something very important, and that's that one of the things I really value, and I think is our unique selling point as uMyanyano Lwe Jazz Festival. It's one of the few spaces in the city where artists will sit at each other's game the whole entire time. The moment she's referencing is not a lie, and it's always beautiful to see. In fact, most of the time artists aren't incentivized to stay. They themselves are keen on seeing the next musician play. And I think it's not by coincidence, right? Because dare I say, the model that we pioneered of sort of a boutique jazz festival was precisely for that reason of how do we make listening a culture for this music. Because yes, you can go to the jazz festival that's in a convention center, or you can go to a jazz festival that's super outdoor. But what are the implications of both those atmospheres? And I think uMyanyano strikes that balance where we're outdoors, but it's still intimate, seating is created for you. So I also just want to say, like, these aren't like things that are happening by coincidence. Like, we are very intentional about how we created the space so that it yields such moments.
Thank you for that. I mean, that's important because I was Team Drake, but Kendrick said, I'm not in the music business. I've been in the human business. And I think the team at uMyanyano Lwe Jazz really fully understand that sentiment based on the kind words that Bokan shared. So, I mean, listen, there's a reality where you guys don't share similar sentiments with, I mean, I don't want to speak to the artists you've had, I imagine they were all a joy, but there are realities where that won't be the case, where you don't have a similar experience that Bokan has as the promoter, as the organizer, right? Which affects likelihood for someone to get booked again, right? Just because of a human thing, right? So, Musa, tell me, what behaviors increase the likelihood of being booked again?
Okay, so I'm just gonna speak on 4 things. The first one is discipline. You know, if you have an artist that is disciplined, that keeps time, you know, that honors the agreements, that communicates on time, whether they're delayed, whether they're having problems, like those kind of things. I feel like that's the first thing. The second thing is clarity. You know, coming with intention when you come to the uMyanyano space, making sure that you also honor the people that are there, honor the people that are making sure that the experience is being created in those ways. And then the other thing also is putting out a daring performance, if I may say. I feel like if you were to put out a performance that people are going to constantly visualize and think about, you know, constantly refer to, be like, yo, do you remember Bokang on that uMyanyano, like, that was that interest, you know, we have vivid moments, you know, where she was like putting out a show, and that in itself, it inculcates a kind of thing that I want to see that again, you know? I want to see that again in other ways, but also like in the ways in which like I saw it the last time. So it's that kind of thing in which like I feel that makes an artist want for us to want to hold the artist again, because also the audience reception, like how the people refer to that, you know, like, oh, we had a good time with this person that you had, can you please have them again? Because we almost see it when we have the second, maybe if we drop for the second event, then people that missed maybe Kujenga on the previous one, be like, ah, we saw the videos, are you also bringing Kujenga again? You know, it's that kind of thing, you know. And the other thing also, we've had Kujenga twice, you know. The first time, like when they came to Joburg, and we also had them last year. So it speaks to that, you know, like honoring, giving a stellar performance, being disciplined, you know, honoring the audience itself. So I feel like that's what inculcates us to then want to book you again.
Okay, just on that, I'm curious, while you were speaking, I wanted to know, is there an expectation, I mean, as far as standards go, is there how much of an expectation is there on previous festival experience before you're on a ULJ stage?
Let me catch that.
So, how much of the artists who have been on their stage, how much of an expectation do you guys put on them to have previous festival experience before getting your guys' stage? Do you ever have first-time festival performances?
Yeah, for guys, it's the first time.
Okay.
Performer, you know? A whole lot of artists that we've had are doing the first festivals, you know. So it's that kind of thing. Like we don't have a sort of thing that you should have performed. You should have a long CV, you know, in order to be part of the uMyanyano stage. It's always a thing of, if we're feeling the music, you know, if we're feeling you, if the people are feeling you, we're also feeling you know. So it's that kind of thing. It's not built on, oh, you've graced this stage, or you've been to perform outside of the country or whatever. It's not always about that, but it's a thing of, if you can hear the music, you know, when you can hear the music, you can hear the music. And I feel that is what speaks to us then wanting to have those kind of things on the uMyanyano stage.
Okay, noted. So guys, as artists, just make dope shit and be dope, you know. It's not just that simple, but that's a good start, at least. So, applying a similar rhetoric, you heard that? Applying a similar criteria and rhetoric, you know, beyond just looking at artists, now looking at, you know, collaborators in the broader sense. What qualities do you guys look for in a collaborator, and how can emerging creators?
Artists and the collaboration between those. When we think about alignment, right, we must know ourselves first, right? It says know thyself. And we automatically then just pull people or collaborators who are aligned with us in our spirit. As a festival, as you can see, some of them who are here, organizers, some of them are with you in the crowd. We are incredibly youthful and just brilliant and fiercely black and proud of it, right? And therefore we want to platform beautiful black South African music. That's why, you know, the festival exists. And also, therefore we want to collaborate with people who align with that. So we look to our community, our small business owners who are pushing and doing the work in the large ecosystem of eventing, for example, which is mostly dominated, by those that do not look like us. But we know that we are doing this work and we're just not getting the platforms. So when we're looking for people who are giving us our furniture, we are having the conversations with those who, have been pushing and doing the work, but we can able to find a common ground and say, how do we work together? So it's the thing of, there's a fine line in understanding and alignment where us being a self-funded independent festival, we can't reach the milestones that many big festivals with sponsors and the likes can get. So we can't book the best sound in the city that is used by everybody. But we know people who have amazing sound that were also platforming, right? So in the same way that younger musicians who are hot and happening get to shine out on that stage, vendors who have been doing the work continuously and have quality work also get to shine on the uMyanyano stage, right? And we can also be on their CV to say, I supplied furniture, quality sound at uMyanyano Lwe Jazz, and we can be their witnesses. So it's that push and pull, that symbiosis that works for partners and collaborators. And I think also, understanding that in this creative ecosystem, there's a checklist that people expect you to get right and on the ball, especially when you talk about the behind the scenes thing, right? So how you deal with the back end things of operations, right? And we also want to break the fourth wall to say things don't always go as perfectly as you want to assume that they do. But having community as your collaborators says you have conversation that's going to say, how do we get this done and we get to finish the processes later, right? And how do we then work around them? Just so we're able to make the paths to heaven when we arrive on the day and keep those relationships building. So for example, we've been using the same furniture vendor for the past 3 years. And it keeps increasing, and then he increased his quantity of his stock so he can be able to supply for the next uMyanyano as it also grows. So we are growing together with everybody that we're pulling along. So even at the next bigger and better edition, would still most probably be with those very same vendors and those very same sound engineers probably. So it's just being really in alignment and people who know the vision and want to contribute to that vision.
You use such a beautiful word, that alignment. What a word. It's like you can't force, it's one of those things you can't force. It's like for the existence of this particular collaboration exists because of alignment. The number of times I've seen Lwe Jazz at our shows, right? We met in Cape Town, right? In one of my shows. So it's like, that's alignment. And it just makes things exist so authentically, right? So I guess I'm going to pose this next question for you with what I mentioned Cape Town. As far as alignment goes, right? Obviously, it's not just you guys seeking alignment. People have to align with you guys. And what they're aligning with you guys with, there are very specific elements. You guys have an incredible visual identity, by the way. Thanks so much for those what informs that visual identity and the things that partners will align with is your guys' cultural identity, right? So tell me, what storytelling elements shape uLJ's cultural identity?
That's a very beautiful question. On the show of hands, is there anyone that was at uMyanyano Lwe Jazz last year? Anyone coming this year? Yes! Okay, so we are doing something. Anyone coming next year? Yes! Okay. So last year's edition celebrated the life of Robert Mangaliso-Subungu. He's related to. That's a cultural movement right there. And so in terms of our visual identity, we're very intentional in sort of the theme of the festival, and in addition to the theme, the look and feel of the festival, but also the assets that go as marketing, promotional material for the festival. And this year we're looking at the golden era of South African jazz, dare I say South African music, which is like the 50s and 60s. Think Sophia Town, think Drum Magazine and the work that it was doing in archiving black musicians and gossip at the time. And so because we positioning ourselves actively as not just a festival but a institution as well, we found it fit that in this year's visual identity, we sort of incorporate those visuals of the Drum Magazine and what that meant in documenting wonderful, phenomenal figures like Mamtoli Ratewe, your hues of this world. And so be it Tatu Tui, Vuyoviwe, Malcolm, Tadega Nada, and us continuing that lineage and how we celebrate our artists, all of that is saying we need to look at the past because there's nothing new that we are doing. But how do we then translate that into modern times as a visual language that appeals to audiences? I mean, I'm wearing one of those pieces now. It's like a little song. Like, how do we really make things enticing? Tato said we are a very youthful bunch. Like some of our meetings are really not serious. So, but the festival is. So for us, and what's worth noting is we actually don't have an official logo. We're probably going to put that out next year, but what we do have is this evolving cultural identity every single year that points our listeners to various things that they then take home post the festival. So for us, it's really that. How do we gather ourselves? Because again, at the core of this, when it started during COVID, it was we friends, we want a space together for this music, and we're gonna do it come hell or high waters. And even with our visual identity, it's us saying we want to learn more about this thing, but in the process we want to teach ourselves and our audiences about this thing. So that's what our visual identity is going to do.
Legacy, right? Legacy is like a well that never runs dry, which is exciting. That the easiest thing you can do is be yourself. The easiest source you can pull from is home. So I think you guys are doing an incredible thing for a generation that doesn't even know Drum Magazine. And it's still around. Come on. But also the way you guys showcased it, that Drum Magazine. That one. So I'm going to close it off with you, Bokan, before we open it up to the floor for one question. I'm joking, we'll see. Your view on, jazz audiences and the live experience. How did it shift once you, it being your first festival, when you now consume the consumer, because they watch us all the time. So when you now, experience a ULJ audience, how is that shifted now, I guess, going forward, if you were to give them their flowers a little bit, or not? Yeah.
Sure. I think with the audience, what I experienced was something I actually never had experienced as an emerging artist, where people were actually interested in what I actually had to say for the first time. Because I've always been like a collaborator, like I'm a part of featuring whatever. So it was like so great it's my first time, I don't have an album out. So the place, or just experiencing an audience that was like, who's this girl, what is she about? And let's actually sit there and listen, away from, I don't know her. Because I think what a lot of young artists experience, which I've experienced till to this day, whether I've won an award, which I have. I wouldn't experience one award. How? She doesn't have an album. So that experience then ruins people actually listening to me. And so, or even how do I say it in English? But I think that's for the first time I experienced just people really interested into wanting to like hear young talent, hear what we have to say. And so that experience was really great. The shift for me was also for myself as an artist to learn that I must, be well prepared. Because I was learning for the first time, okay, well, guys, like this time around, it's not just a corporate game, or you have to show up. So I made sure, like, okay, because before I wouldn't really dress up, and so I took it seriously. That was also a shift for myself. To say, okay, let me take myself seriously. Let me learn how to an etiquette that I wanted to adopt when I go to festivals. To say, okay, this is how I should behave, this is how I want to behave, how I want to be perceived. And so that was a great shift for me to also learn those things outside of the audience experiencing me, but also respecting the audience and making sure that whatever I've prepared also is worth a dime, their dime. Because I think that was also something I really took for granted as a young musician, I'm being honest. I can tell it there, I will just consume whatever, but I took it very safely after that. Okay, I've stepped onto this to prove what I these people that have given me this opportunity, I have to make sure I give them what they actually pulled me here for. So I think it's a holistic thing. It can't just be what I get from the audience or how they perceive me, but it's also what they also should, get from me. So there's so many things to say, but I think what I appreciated the most was they gave me a chance. Like, I think for me, I take that very seriously because I have to be very honest. Every time Suki calls me and when they call me, this beautiful team calls me, I'm always in a place where I feel very neglected as an artist. So if they phone me, I would always like, hello. They haven't forgotten that I actually exist, So those moments for me when they give me that platform, I take it seriously, meaning I'm actually needed the space, And for me, that's something that many artists, some of us, unfortunately, some people self-harm and we get into very dark spaces because we get forgotten. So this space is not just about, the alignment is also a spiritual alignment that also comes into play. So I say when you find me, she's finding me in a place where I felt this way. She's like, I'm taking you out of whatever that situation might be. And so it's like a holistic thing that I think about.
No, you said something perfect. And I don't think we give organizers enough credit for the audience that they curate. You guys are part of the curation, right? And it's always that, artists have the pull, they bring their audience. You want an audience that listens to every word you say? You all Jay, right? We have a hard stop for 8 o'clock because we're here for something very specific. So I'm going to take one question, and depending how that's answered, we might. But yeah, we'll risk it. Let's see. Let me get a hand up.
I think.
Okay, cool.
I think you are securing the culture yomculo and enikhulisa nabantwana also, so I appreciate that so much. I'm asking this question for a friend. Sithola kanjani space sokuthi siphefome nathi lapha?
Uhle check i-email yakho.
Yeah, please check your emails. But for everyone else, please just doing the dope work, and like dope work is never outside of being noticed, We're one thing, we're not a fan of mediocrity, We're not a fan of that particular thing. So we're very much intentional about the kind of thing that we do, the kind of artists that we want to have, and the people that we've seen. We're also huge fans of the musicians that we have on board. We go to their shows, we're there because we know the kind of shows they're able to put out. Hence, we also want to have them in our festival. So it's that kind of thing, keep doing the work, don't be mediocre. you know, and then yeah, we're gonna be there.
Okay, we have room for one more. Okay, we said disqualified.
That is not a question, it's a comment.
Now. Sorry, yes.
Hi guys.
Hi.
First of all, thank you guys for this wonderful panel. Okay, so I'm someone who's part of the male scene, right? I know this is jazz related, but I'm in the male scene, and at times whenever it comes to metal mixing with different genres, they are quite intriguing and interesting to find out about. So I want to know, do you see some of these combinations of these genres as a way to break down musical barriers and attracting a more diverse audience?
Wow.
I'll take it because I heard the question. You're very correct. You're very correct. And I think there's been a shift, right? And I think we spoke about it the last time she was on this very chair, in that it's the first time we are seeing jazz musicians slowly being booked into other music festivals, right? And we did not take that for granted. But also it goes the other way in that how do we start thinking about how we curate our lineups, curate our sonic experiences to include other genres and alternative music that is jazz leaning, right? I mean, Obi doesn't particularly do jazz music, but he's on the lineup. Saki, likewise, Sunday tickets are still available, please do get him. Although I do think Saki is very jazz leaning, especially if you listen to her early stuff. But to answer your question, I mean, there's a lot of bands in this country that have also just bended that genre, what you're speaking about, right? You've got Blackjacks, who's been doing that since forever. You've got younger bands like LOC as well that are coming through. And so it's definitely possible. Musicians are doing it every other day, they're recording. It's just about how do we, in our lineups, create a platform for that music to shine as well. And I think we started. Yeah.
I will allow that comment. Before that, I want to just also add to that. I think cultural preservation is important, right? I think the DNA of a genre, can get lost in the mix of, the cross-pollination of genres, So I think sometimes platforms like a ULJ, a Kids Love Jazz, a Lwe Jazz, it's important to have genre-specific events just to preserve something that might have, sorry, I got so nervous. But yeah, basically I think as a cultural preservation exercise, I think it's important for certain things to, I don't want to sound like I'm saying, yeah, you guys mustn't date, we mustn't fix cultures. But, we do need a lot more Xhosa people. So if we are able to preserve culture like jazz through platforms like these, I'm all for it, Whatever happens in hybrid phases, maybe it can even happen as hybrid festivals then, and stuff, So yeah, just a thought. Let's get that comment. So there's just one last comment before we have to shut it down.
Yes, I think I enjoy uMyanyano Lwe Jazz particularly also because of how seriously I feel they take sonic custodians, right? I think you experience the music and you travel with the music across genre through the particular selection of DJs and selectors. So for us, DJs and selectors aren't just like a by-the-way thing, they actually contribute to the entire sonic texture of how we imagine a day. So we have Kimetsu and Jinji, for example, who are going to be also experimenting with what that sounds like. But for us, we feel that selectors and DJs, their duty is not to play hits only, right? It's to continue and stretch the music. We can only have 20 artists, but 1 hour can take you places. And I think I particularly enjoy uMyanyano Lwe Jazz for the ways in which we are a curious festival. We know that you have your faves, but we trust our ears so much so that even if you only know 4 people on our lineup, you are going to leave with 20 faves, because that's just how committed we are to the tradition, that's just how committed we are to the sound. So a lot of people interact with musicians for the first time at uMyanyano Lwe Jazz, and that's something that we are very proud of, because festivals should be doing that. Festivals are the place where people can learn and experience and explore. Festivals is how we grow an audience and an appetite for the music. So I'm not interested in any kind of festival that drops bangers only. I need to understand also what more am I getting? So we're a curious festival, we're a listening festival, and it also shows how we curate and think about the DJ. That's my one comment. Thank you.
Make some noise for that. And that is the show. Make some noise for our December 6th, December 7th, next weekend. ULJ, get your ticket, it's still out. This was your Let's Touch Base and your weekly touch-up week 125. Make some noise once again for our So that's what we're going to do, if you can still hear me. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Is someone taking a photo?
Yes, please take a bow.
Okay, cool. Let's take a bow first. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you for the insights. You know, there's a gentleman who's in finance who they're gatekeeping. They said, no, we're giving away too many. So let's not get him on the panel. Wherever he is, we will talk. Oh, no! Yeah, gotcha. So guys, we're going to direct our attention to the stage outside. Find yourself a comfortable place. And we're going to get started with the music of the evening.